Hello, everybody. I'm Paul, and welcome to the Fan Voice. This evening, my partner Andrew is not with us because he's visiting a good friend in Japan and having an awesome time. So tonight, I have with me Connor Treude and Max Edwards to discuss the season finale of Korra. Say hello, guys.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me again. This is my second time being on the Fan Voice. First time was episode 8 when we talked about Kill la Kill. Paul, thanks for having me back. It's always a thrill to be here.
Of course, of course.
Hey everybody, I'm Max. This is my first time on Paul's podcast, and I am happy to be here to discuss an epic ending to an epic show. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, so along with just the finale, I was thinking we could also get into just our impressions of the season, or the series, excuse me.
The series, yeah.
Gosh, it's over.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
right? It seems like just yesterday we were like hyping like crazy for this like rumored show that was just like given a title to come about.
It
Right.
really does feel like it was just yesterday. I remember when it was announced, and gosh, there was so much to speculate on because so little was released aside from, hey, there's going to be a new show in the Avatar universe. It's going to be 70 years set in the future. There's a new Avatar. And I just remember it was like, man, what is this going to be like? What on earth? And, oh gosh, I don't even know. It was awesome. It was so awesome.
It was so crazy, like, Season 3 ended, and you're like, oh, wow, that was insane. And then, like, wait, what? Season 4 is happening, like, in a month? Wait, what? Huh?
Yeah,
That was a huge surprise to me. I'm like, wow, it's really quick.
it really went through a weird process as far as like promotion goes, because I don't know, I guess they're like, oh, we're gonna show it everywhere, then just online, then okay, let's just get this over with, kind of thing. It was like,
Right?
Well, from what I
what's going on?
understand, from what I understand, even from the very beginning, it seemed to be in a bit of a weird place.
Mhm.
I remember this was probably like 3 years ago. I was a freshman in college,
Mhm.
and we were all waiting for Korra to come out, and they were saying. I remember in interviews, because me and my roommates, we had found some leaked footage from season 1, and so we were like, "Whoa, this is really cool!" And we did some more research, and we were seeing some interviews from the writers and stuff, and what they had to say on it. And they were saying, pretty reluctantly too, that the first season wasn't going to be released for another year. But they said that season 1 was done and season 2 was well on its way to being finished, even before the entire series had even begun. But then, of course, episode 1, if you all remember, episode 1 got leaked, and
I
then
do remember, yeah.
yeah, and then Nickelodeon was all like, "Psych! Look, it's the Legend of Korra." And we were like, "Okay," because like it got me thinking, like someone on the inside definitely had to have had released it because they're like, enough is enough. Like if the show's ready, it's ready. We're getting it out there.
Yeah, because that was like the cleanest leak ever.
Yeah, yeah, it was like, yeah, here's a 720.
Ta-da!
Here's a 720p leak of the first episode. Where did it come from? Probably the studio itself, guys.
Wonder if, like, that was an experiment to see, how well will this do online? And, like, could that be an option later? Who knows?
Who knows?
Absolutely.
So, do we want to, like, since we're talking about season 1, do we want to start about season 1? Like, our very first impressions of The Legend of Korra?
We could
Sure,
go
why
that way.
not? Or what do you think, Max?
I just, like, gosh, can we talk about the Colossus for a few seconds? Jeez.
Sure.
Like,
Okay.
like where
I guess
did that come
we can
from?
work our way
Like,
backwards.
I don't know. It's just that completely blew me away. It's just like, oh wow, like that was Kuvira's plan, like with the metal shields from Zaofu. She's like, I see that, I see potential, I see giant mech suit. I see.
I will admit I did not expect that at all. That was a pretty awesome surprise.
I didn't
So,
either.
and I loved, like, I go into that thinking, how are they going to defeat that thing? It's just, that is ridiculously overpowered. And that,
Uh-huh.
like, the joints were made of platinum, so they couldn't even bend it. Like,
Something that really impressed me,
hmm
when you look inside the cockpit, so Kovir is obviously the one that's piloting the mech suit, and she's metal bending to
yeah.
do that.
hmm
In the center, there's like this giant sphere that's sort of like a wheel, and then she's bending it and moving it, and that's what controls the limbs. And so more than like not just like the concepts, not beyond just the concept of the Colossus itself.
Yeah.
I was able to really appreciate the design of it too.
The inner
Yeah.
mechanisms of it all just yeah, like you were saying, like the cockpit with those like metal orbs and stuff was just like, oh my gosh, where did they come up with this?
Yeah, I thought it
Qatar
was really
Jr.,
clever.
he's a genius.
Yeah.
Takes after his dad.
So yeah, no, the Colossus is really cool, and
And
we'll get
like the
back to that.
yeah.
So first impressions with
hmm
my first impressions with the Legend of Korra. So I was actually initially blown away. And what I do know, I don't know the names. But somewhere along the way, actually, I think the first season had a different animation team, like a different animation company, did the first season as opposed to the second season. But right off the bat, watching the first season of The Legend of Korra, the animation was so fluid. It was gorgeous.
hmm
And then you get to Republic City, so like they explain Republic City, um, because that's a big thing that I was wondering about. I was like, okay, we're 70 years in the future. There's obviously a new avatar. She's a girl. She's from the Water Tribe. That's cool. I want to know what the whole world is like now. I want to know what's
hmm
different.
Right.
And so that's where Republic City is introduced. And actually, um, there's a small little arc predating that sort of helps explain how Republic City came to be, in the form of graphic novels back in the last the last Airbender universe. Um,
Really?
yeah, it's
Cool.
called The Promise.
Hmm.
And that sort
That's
of
deep.
deals with this whole conflict that like, okay, the war is over, but there's still Fire Nation colonies in Earth Kingdom territory,
Hmm.
and so what are we gonna do about that? And so,
hmm
not to dive into it too much, you guys should really read it for yourselves because it's a really great read. But there's a conflict of interest. Zuko, being the new Fire Lord, wants to support his people. Aang, being the Avatar, wants to restore balance and have 4 separate nations. And then somewhere along the way, there was a compromise to create Republic City, this capital nation of the world. Um, and so now we're in Republic City, and it's sort of like a kind of like a Roaring Twenties type era going on, which I really
Right.
liked. I loved all the swing
It's so
music.
awesome. Brilliant theming.
Yeah, I loved all the swing music and all that, all the action and the buildings and the radio age and stuff. So my first impressions, I thought it was really cool. What about you guys?
I was totally hype out of my mind. just just waiting for it for so long, and probably still season one is my favorite just because of the presence of
Really.
Amon, which brought a huge, like, really legitimate issue to the series of like equality
Yeah.
between benders
hmm
and non-benders. Like outside of like, oh, saving the world or just like wondrous adventures, it's like no, there's a legitimate problem and disadvantage between those people kind of thing in day-to-day life.
The world is
Absolutely.
out of balance, or it was out of balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amon was a brilliant villain, just like giving him the illusion of that ability, that ultimate ability that only Aang was able to discover in the last Airbender universe,
Right.
spirit bending, or what looked like spirit bending, to where you could take away someone's bending. Is that on the audio feed, real quick? Anybody hear
What?
that? Never mind.
Okay.
Sorry. Uh, breaking the fourth wall there. But anyway, um, just it was so crazy, and I was thinking, oh, that's so great, just because one of the things that I really liked about Last Airbender universe were the lion turtles and the whole idea of spirit bending, and I'm like, oh, cool, like that's going to be addressed. Like, wow, how did Amon get that? Did he meet a lion turtle, or like I was hoping to see a lion turtle, but then it's like, oh, nope, just more water tribe daddy
It's
issues.
water bending somehow.
Yeah, no,
That was a
I'm
bit of an ass pull in my opinion. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I loved Amon too, and going back to what you were saying, Paul. Yeah, I also found it to be a really legitimate issue. I was more or less a supporter of the equalist movement. Obviously, not as radical as Amon was, but when you look at that world, the entire police force is made of benders. There's an entire sport built around bending.
right, yeah.
There isn't a single non-bending member on the council in Republic City, and
Mm-hmm.
so non-bending people really are underrepresented in that city. And so I was like, Amon's call to action is sound.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, Max, going back to what you said, well,
Yeah.
first of all, okay, another thing I loved about Amon, so Steve Bloom, the voice actor,
Yes.
is amazing as always. I was so happy to see him do work in this show, and as always, he sounded amazing. And so I just think he has
True.
such a great, menacing, kind of husky voice that
was
just sort of
terrifying.
makes you shiver a
His
bit.
voice is the definition of cool, basically.
Basically, yeah. So I loved it. I loved Amon. But yeah, Max, going back to what you were saying, at the end, yeah, I felt a little underwhelmed when I realized. So like, I didn't have a problem with the fact that the way he was taking away bending came from water bending, and specifically a type of blood bending to like I imagine like blocking chi flow and chakras to prevent people from bending.
Yeah.
That's true.
But then
Just
like
like shoving the top two.
yeah, and so but then yeah, I was a little underwhelmed when I realized when we all learned that basically it came from more or less him having daddy issues.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
But let's talk about other characters, all these new characters that we got to meet. So
Right, like
we have
the Fire Ferrets with Mako and Bolin. They're a really awesome team. Great brother dynamic. Bolin's one of my favorite characters. Earthbenders have a special place in my heart, and I think Bolin is just one of the best Earthbenders we've had. Like in either universe, I think it could stand against anybody else. And yeah, he's great. And Mako, he's awesome too. I just had thoughts, comments, discuss.
I'm with you. I like Mako and Bolin. I thought it was cool seeing them as brothers and having them be two different benders as a pair of brothers. I thought they were a really dynamic duo for Korra to meet. I also thought Korra was awesome too when I first met her. So like, because like, so you look at Aang, and we got to know him really well over the course of 3 seasons, 60 episodes, and Aang went a long way in his journey. He started off really, really goofy, and I mean, he was a kid, and by the end of it, even though he was still a kid by the end of it, he had to really put that aside. But even though he was a kid, he was also still an air nomad, and so he was very spiritual. He was collected and calm and peaceful. And then we have Korra, who is just a total hothead, and she sort of acts before she thinks, and she is a little impulsive and a little bullheaded and stubborn and proud. And that's whatever, and those are things that we'll address. But I thought it was really cool, basically getting like the extreme opposite end of the spectrum with this new avatar.
That's probably
She's the avatar. We got to deal with it.
That's probably one of the best things they did in the series, in my opinion, is really making Aang and Korra yin and yang. I'm gonna just kind of go across the board here.
Beautiful.
Just like Connor gave a bunch of great examples of how like they're opposites. Like what is it? Korra's super stubborn and not in touch with the spiritual world at all, and just their growing
Right.
process was very opposites as well. Going
Yes.
going to the like from the beginning to the final season of both series, we what Aang needed to do mainly was to grow as a fighter and combative. He needed to learn all the elements and fight well with them. And we really saw that process evolve immensely from his first few episodes, like goofing around on his airball, to like
Yeah.
doing these incredibly choreographed fights with all four elements at the same time, where
Yeah.
we
Flow
have
state.
Korra, who mastered all the elements super fast, but what she needed to master was basically this mindset of gentleness and harmony towards absolutely anyone, where Aang had that like internally being an air monk almost at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their their childhood and how they were brought up really defines their characters because Korra, being sheltered and whatnot, she was always like, I want to explore, I want to, I want to know more. I already know all of these things. I want to go out and see the world. Aang was already a free spirit, being the air nomads. It's like you're an airbender, you can fly. We are the people who are like most connected to our spiritual energy and the concept of freedom in the sky.
Hmm.
So Korra needed to explore the world a bit and become in tune with her spiritual side, and she does eventually do that in season one, which I thought was a great way to kind of cap it off, and it's a great segue into season two with how she handles actually being the Avatar, because she was always ready to be the Avatar. She always knew who she was. It's just like, what do I do with that? Aang is like, here's this thing, you have to do it, and he's like,
I can't
I don't.
handle this. I don't want to do it. Yeah.
Can I just like play airball like for days on end and just like fly around on my glider and just be awesome?
Yeah.
Please. No? Okay, fine. All right. All four elements learned. All right. There you go. No more Fire Lord. We're good.
I can't in good faith say that transitioning into season 2 that Korra was ready to actually be the Avatar. But I
Agreed.
mean,
Yeah,
like,
no.
I
Season two
get what
she
you're
needed to
saying.
grow.
Yeah, I get what you're saying because what Paul was saying about like the whole spiritual growth inside
Yes.
her that because like I wasn't really able to see the weight in that until it actually started happening, because even in season 1, Korra had water bending down, earth bending down, and fire bending down like immediately, and I was like, holy crap, like what could like
Where do we go from
are we
here?
even gonna have a story after all this? But like
Yeah.
no, like she really struggled with airbending and then she finally got
Hmm.
it. But like so, okay, so
I'm
at the
I'm
end
a
of the
little
season,
bunched up about how she got airbending, honestly.
me too, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So at the end of season one,
Freedom. She
so
let go.
Amon, well, okay, so at the end of season 1, so she battles Amon, and before Amon is defeated, he takes away her bending, and she can't bend. Um, and so and so they're in that hallway, and she's coming at him, and then like she suddenly just from the spirit of her will, I guess, is just unleashes a giant blast of air, and so that's the first time she
Uh,
was ever able to airbend. And so my problem with that is just
yeah.
because like that was completely derived from the heat of the moment, and like she lashed out with anger, and I'm not able to see.
Uh,
I didn't
That
see that really reflect any
what anger's a
spiritual.
valid interpretation of that. You could also look at that as a moment of desperation and like letting go. And
hmm
she also had help considering Amon blocked all of her other chi derived from all the other elements. She had to let go of her entire conception of being a bender and like her ability to power through and fight through the situation. So her doing that
That's a
was
good point.
was a reflex, but also kind of like a desperation because she's like, I know I don't have any bending, but there's nothing else I can do, and I want to save Mako because I have strong feelings for him. So, but
For the moment when she unlocked bending, I can definitely get into that like desperation, like Super Saiyan kind of moment where you need the
Yeah,
power breakthrough kind of thing. But the
but
thing about
Connor,
it was like
yeah,
the few moments afterwards when she fought Amon away with airbending,
okay,
she basically threw away everything we learned about airbending through the season where like um Tenzin was constantly talking about it's an element of grace and gentleness going through the wind. But after she unlocks it, she's just like punching and kicking air everywhere, like she always
true.
does, you know?
Well, yes, but the Airbenders have their own fighting style. It's a form of evasion and like redirecting your opponent's power. Um, because Aang had to alter airbending for combat because he had to take out the Fire Nation and
Hmm.
keep his friends and family safe, or well, yeah, his friends who became his family. But yeah, I agree. It was a little silly the way the delivery handled it, Paul. You're right, and Connor, you're totally valid. That I had a bit of trouble with it. It's like, oh, she punched and now she did it. Yay, go
It just
Korra, you did it. Oh, why didn't you do it sooner?
yeah, and like Max, what you were talking about, like that's a really good point, and it's actually making me look at that situation differently. But also
Mhm.
what Paul was saying, like after that moment, like yeah, just like everything that she was doing, like was totally not reflective of what her training had been.
Mhm.
But I mean, like it,
Amon needed to be dealt with.
yeah, whatever, so it's
That
okay.
is a very
Oh, I'm
interesting
sorry.
concept of oh, sorry. What?
I'm trying to remember Amon's real name.
Oh, I don't know.
Ugh, God. I'm giving
While
up
you're trying
internet.
to remember, I one last thing I wanted to talk about in season one, um, was so after that I didn't something
Noah
I
Tech,
had
I
a
think. Sorry.
no problem. Something I had a problem with. I didn't think there was a whole lot of consequence to Korra losing her bending because
No.
she wasn't able to bend for maybe like 3 hours before
Yeah,
she got her
exactly.
bending back.
I
I
know,
mean,
I know.
it was the maximum perfect ending to like a show that already like kind of comforts in perfect endings. Um, but yeah, well, I to a degree, I guess I can understand because like at a certain point they thought the people who wrote the show thought that it was only
Yeah.
going to be one season, correct?
No,
Really?
actually,
No.
okay,
Connor,
well,
weren't you
I
saying
can,
that they had season 2? Go ahead.
yeah, so I can verify this. So originally it was confirmed for 2 seasons, um,
Oh, okay.
but towards the end of season one, and I remember this because I went to San Diego Comic Con that year. It
Lucky.
was announced that Korra was picking up 2 more seasons, and everyone
Yeah.
was freaking out about it. They're like, "What? What? 4 seasons of Korra? Can you believe it?" So from the beginning, it was always going to be two,
Believe it.
and then like yeah, when season one came out, it was huge. It was so popular. Everyone was tuning in, and so I
Yeah.
guess maybe they would. I guess they saw that and took that, and they're like, "All right, let's sign up for 2 more seasons."
Right.
Whoop, whoop.
So
Thanks,
so
Okay,
yeah,
kids.
so the perfect ending isn't really that justified. uh,
yeah. So I
but
was thinking, I was like, yeah, what if like the season ends and she can't bend? Like I didn't think that she was gonna not be able to bend
I think
forever.
everyone I've
Speaking,
talked to wanted to see her like go like a half season or so with just relying on airbending or something like that.
that would have been really cool, I
Yeah.
think. I think it would have been neat. But, they needed her to, like, have the power to deal with spirits in the next season. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
which was so cool, such a great season. But one last thing about like that perfect ending, air quotes. Like the silliest thing for me about all of that was when Mako was finally like, Korra, I love you, like let's be together, and then she's like, I can't, I'm not complete without my bending. I was just like, okay. And like I guess sure that's legitimate, but then like Aang shows up and it's like, okay, so you got your bending back, and then like Mako's there, and
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
now I can love you.
Yeah,
Now that I have my
exactly.
bending,
I
it's like,
totally agree. It's like, all
what?
right.
Okay, I'm not gonna. I love the show. I'm not gonna judge, but like, come on, guys.
I feel better now, so now I can accept you. I feel better about
Speaking
myself.
speaking of romance, let's address the elephant in the room and talk about season 2. Oh boy. So for me,
Ooh.
and I don't know if I don't know how where you guys stand, but season 2 is definitely my least favorite season.
Oh.
Um, so I mean,
I think character development wise, I'd agree with you, but as far as like
that's
expanding the world,
well, yeah, no, I mean, cool things happen, but yeah, because of the character development stuff being so poor and just all over the place, that's why it's my least favorite. I personally, I found myself getting so frustrated for so many reasons. Um, so one, the
go on.
romance stuff, all the back and forth stuff between Korra and Mako and Asami was driving me crazy. But actually, what drove me even more insane was Korra herself. Um, after
Hmm.
season, like, I really didn't think that Korra was exercising anything that she had learned from her experiences with Amon in season 1. Because in season 2, Korra is still so impulsive and stubborn, and she'll talk back and she won't listen. She's doing this with Tenzin. Her feelings and her emotions and all of that is also a driving force behind all of this flip-flopping romance stuff. And so I was really
Hmm.
like I wasn't expecting like a huge jump from, where she started out to where she was then in season 2, but like I don't know, like the way she was acting, I was like, "Come on." Like I could see you making this mistake in season 1, but we're not in
Yeah.
season 1 anymore. You defeated
Uh,
Amon and like that took a lot and you should have learned more from that. So,
At the
yeah.
time, I could agree, but with the way I
Right, yeah.
saw Korra develop at the very end, I was like, okay, so this was personally, I saw it as okay, so this was her biggest challenge of all, just changing her impulsive emotion kind of thing.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good
She
point.
and also, guys, you have to kind of put yourself in her shoes and remember like how she was brought up, like being sheltered her whole life because everyone was afraid with the whole Red Lotus scare, like them trying to kill her as a child. They're like, okay, everybody like ice walls, like Game of Thrones style ice walls everywhere. Like no one is getting in the north, like or in south. No one is getting in here, and so Korra had a sheltered lifestyle, and so she kind of I can empathize with her not being able to people very well because of that. It's I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What do you
The
think?
one, either way, the I think we can all agree the two-part Avatar wand thing was absolutely incredible.
Oh,
Yes.
so
Oh my
great,
gosh.
so awesome.
I didn't even think of like
Right?
from time to time when I was watching The Last Airbender, it was
Hmm.
just on the back burner. I was like, I wonder how like the Avatar came to be, but like I never really like sat down to think about it. And so when I heard that this was happening, I was super excited. And yeah, like so the Avatar 1 origin story was easily the best part of that whole season for me. Um I
You didn't like the Tree of Time and like giant spirit bending battle?
well no, I liked that, but
That got a little too nuts for me personally.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
I loved it. I was
and
like, oh
and
my
just
god.
Jinora coming out of nowhere and opening a light in his chest.
well,
So
it was just
yeah,
That
like
was
it
neat.
was just such a like it was such a huge breath of fresh air for me going through that season
Hmm.
because like even like my feelings towards Korra's own development aside, I was still going crazy about all this back and forth romance stuff, as I'm sure we all of us were.
hmm
Hmm.
And just like the Avatar Wand thing was so beautifully crafted, like Like
Yeah.
the turtle
And
lions
the
were
animation. Yes, yes,
were like
yes. Lion
they were
turtles. Yes.
landmass. They were landmass. They were their own worlds, and they were
They
these
were
different
our
people
homes.
that like. So they gave the bending. They gave the bending to the people, and Avatar won, being curious and adventurous.
Ken
And
has
then he,
more.
huh?
Ken has more. Ken
Can't,
has.
yeah, he's like, oh, I could. There's more out there. I want to know. And then he meets Rava, and so that was really cool. I love, God, I loved it. I love the design of it all too. It had like a
Mhm.
really ancient, like feudal era.
It was like
The
a
animation was
small
crisp.
like Chinese mythology poem or something almost, you know?
Absolutely,
Just
like
the
it
way it
looks
was
like
presented.
poetry.
Yeah.
It's basically their mythology. It's like this is
Yeah.
how it happened.
Hmm.
So that was great.
Yes.
Anything else in season 2? So I mean, like, well,
More Water Tribe brother issues.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
right.
like Water Tribe. What is why even? And I just rewatched season 1 of The Last Airbender, and I'm at that part where sorry, Katara is trying to master waterbending, but her teacher's like, no, sexism. And I'm like, whoa, wait, Water Tribe. Just so
Oh
many
yeah, yeah.
issues.
that's a good part. Yeah. It was
Tangent.
season 2
Mhm.
was really cool because we learned more about the Avatar, like what it not just what it means to be the Avatar, but like what like physically encompasses being the Avatar. And so, that's
And what Juan had originally intended. Like, I want balance and peace in the world. And so Rob is
But
like, no problem.
unfortunately,
I'm gonna
that can
keep
be
following you.
achieved in one lifetime.
Right?
Just like
right.
continue
Oh,
on and
it's
on.
deep.
Right. And so we had Rava, and then Unalaq came along, and he was like, "Ho ho ho, Dark Avatar, spirit
Negatar.
bending." Yeah.
Open the
Negatar.
portal.
Um so no, that was cool. I really did like that big spirit battle. And
Hmm.
at the end of that, like, I honestly caught myself thinking, I was like, in terms of villains, in terms of the crisis that the Avatar needs to address, I was like, how are they gonna top this? Like,
Yeah.
Hmm.
this is like she was basically fighting the opposite end of the manifestation of herself.
Evil
Uh-huh.
incarnate.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool.
It's great.
I don't know. I don't have a whole lot much more to say about season 2,
Well, season
aside
two,
from that stuff.
if I may, we also got introduced to Varric in that season, so that's
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool,
true.
and that's pretty epic. Him and
Yeah,
Julie.
yeah. Oh man,
He was such a
I
good
love that
character.
duo, and we'll get to talk about
Yes.
them more in the later seasons. But yeah, no, that's true. I forgot about that. Varric and Julie happened,
Hmm.
and little did we know at the time just how pivotal they were going to end up being in the show. So,
Saving the world, no big deal.
season 3.
Sure.
So
Let go of your earthly tether,
Red Lotus stuff.
enter the void, empty, and become wind.
Season 3 set history. Season 3 made history in the Avatar show. This was the first time. I'm just gonna jump right into it
Go
because
for it.
uh, this is the first time ever in the Avatar universe where we have seen on screen someone get killed, and the
Oh,
show's like,
yeah.
yes,
Oh,
this person is indeed dead because,
oh,
and
true.
so like the
Oh, that
Earth
was so
Queen.
unexpected.
I was like,
Oh, Earth
because
Queen.
like going back to the last Airbender, like everything was really vague about character disappearances. So
They
like
took them away.
you look at Jet when they're in
He's not
Boxing
breathing.
Say, and
Whoops.
they're under Lake Laogai, and he's unconscious or whatever, but then we never see him again. We look at Sparky Boom Man when they're at the Air Temple. He falls off the cliff, and then we just never see him again. No one ever really talks about it. And if you remember in season 3 of The Last Airbender when
Yeah.
they're watching that play of themselves, which by the way is the best recap episode in the
It's
history
so
of
good, so
recap
beautiful.
episodes.
It's always
Is
great
that a
when writers are
man?
very self-aware, and they did that beautifully with the jet example.
Yeah, because like when they do
Avatar State, yep.
when they're watching the play of themselves, like there's a part where Aang is outside and then he comes back in and Sokka's catching him up on what happened. There's a part where Sokka says, and I think Jet died. Like we're
It
like,
wasn't
what are we
very
speaking?
clear.
Yeah, so the point is, yeah, it was never clear.
Right.
Same with Admiral Zhao too. Duh, I can't believe I forgot.
Well, until season 3
Yeah,
of
until
Legend of
season
Korra.
3, we found out. Yes, we did find out what happened to him. But yeah, so like seeing the Earth Queen get the air literally bended out of her lungs.
That was so ridiculous. I'm like, wow, airbenders are all of a sudden like don't cross an airbender, like they're monks and they're peaceful and like passive and all that stuff and like, no conflict, but don't piss them off.
Yeah, seriously, like it's like, yeah, okay, like firebenders got their lightning stuff, but you still gotta create fire. Yeah, okay, like waterbenders have to have water around. Okay, you got your blood bending, but like unless you're a Mon or a waterbending master, you need to be like underneath the full moon. But
Right.
like air is literally everywhere.
Oh,
Literally
You like that
everywhere.
oxygen, bro?
Yeah.
You like that oxygen? It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it.
And so
Freaking mafia airbenders.
And so that definitely, I'm pretty
That was
sure.
intense.
I'm pretty sure it was
Zahir
confirmed.
was a brilliant villain.
He was. I'm pretty
In
sure
so
that's the
many
reason
aspects,
why
yeah.
the show went off the air.
Oh yeah, just for that part.
Yeah, they're like, okay, we're actually
Worth
gonna
it.
kill someone, and when we kill them, it's gonna be super hardcore. By the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was really cool. But yeah, no, Zahir and the Red Lotus was really
Awesome.
interesting.
So awesome.
Can you remind me what they were trying to accomplish? Because I honestly cannot remember.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Connor.
Okay, so like we remember the White Lotus back in like the last Airbender times, and like Zahir brought up a good point when he basically called at this point he calls the White Lotus like glorified bodyguards to the Avatar, and I'm gonna have to agree with that because like in the last Airbender universe, like they were like a secret society, Iroh was a part of it, and they were doing Boomy was in it too, and like all sorts of cool stuff was going on. And then you look at this, and they basically were just sort of standing around like guards. And whenever there was an action sequence, I can't say that they did a good job. But what the Red Lotus wanted to do, so they, led by Zahir, of course, they really wanted to liberate the entire world. And in a kind of going back to what Max was saying, well, what Max was quoting quotes from the Airbending monk about letting go of your tether and stuff. They wanted to take out all of the world leaders, and though they weren't looking at it as anarchy, they basically just wanted to bring about making a world that was completely free and everyone could do everything and you weren't bound to like rules and regulations.
The Red Lotus are kind of like the French Revolution of the Legend of Korra universe to me. Their call to action is, freedom from just other people, or freedom from losing the words, but just freedom from control and freedom from monarchies and all that stuff. Because Zahir made a good point that with the monarchy of the Earth Kingdom, that it's the only empire that still has that kind of system, the feudal system and a lineage type deal, because you had the water tribes, which they still kind of have about that, but it's kind of...
They were more all over the place.
Yeah, and they're not as... Yeah, it's not as much of a power struggle thing. And with the Fire Nation, they have their own kind of thing where it's more of a merit issue, and it's kind of family, but it's what you do with it. And the Air Nomads with their whole thing. Um, Republic City was really the dynamic shift because it's like, look what they're doing. This is kind of where the future is heading, and the Earth Kingdom is kind of just, still fragmented from the war, the Hundred-Year War, and still trying to put all that back together, which is how everything is set up for season 4 with Kuvira to like use her 3 years to try to establish balance again, and so Zahir just kind of got the ball rolling with all of that.
Right.
Yeah, and so yeah,
which is funny how he regretted that later.
That's true. So yeah, Zahir was really cool. I liked his posse with the Red Lotus. It was really cool. I wish they had shed a little more light on those characters because lava bending was introduced. It was really cool seeing another combustion bender.
Oh yeah.
But like I don't know anything. So like lava bending's whatever.
Right.
But like I mean we haven't seen another combustion bender since Sparky Boom Man. And even when he was introduced, he was a character that didn't speak and he wasn't even around for very long. But he brought something completely new, and I was like, what is that? Like, is that a tattoo? Is that something that he's born with? I don't know. But we had another combustion bender. It was so cool seeing an armless water bender that just had water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And for Zahir, it's pretty interesting that he achieved the power of flight.
Oh
above,
gosh, yeah.
Like, apparently, no one has done that before, or maybe one person or something like that. But
Guru Lahima.
What?
Guru Lahima.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the only other airbender to do it 800 so years ago.
I guess it kind of makes sense that would be someone more on an antagonizing side to let go of anything, as opposed to like Avatar Aang, who had trouble with the reaching the Avatar state because he couldn't let go of the ones he loved, kind of thing. Where it's like you need I guess some people would see it as a certain coldness to like achieve that level of like having nothing in you, like being air, pretty much, kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's also
that's true. You make a good point, Paul.
Yeah, but it's also, but I mean, like it's also a way for him to like truly validate his call to action, because like I guess it's unreasonable because we can't expect everyone to achieve what Zahir was able to achieve with letting go to the point of achieving flight, but he was able to do that, and so he was.
I don't think he wanted to though.
But he still did it, so he was able to look at the world through that lens. And so we can't call him a madman or that he's crazy or that he's out of line.
He's just wind. He's just empty.
It just makes him more of an impressive villain.
Yes, it definitely does.
So I wanted to ask this question because this is something I'm still confused about. Here started out as a non-bender, and then after harmonic convergence, we're seeing that non-bending people are suddenly able to bend, specifically airbending. Did they ever give an explanation as to why it was only airbending? I know, like
balance.
They talked about it once, maybe, but
I don't think they had to discuss it, Connor. If I may, I think my take on that was with the destruction of the Air Nomad Society and Aang becoming the last Airbender, and then his child and his children's children becoming the last Airbenders, the world was out of balance, and Korra helped put the world back into balance by opening the spirit portals, because first the world had to get back in touch with its spiritual balance before, and in order to do that, the spirit world, I think the world looked at itself and said, I need some more airbenders. There's a imbalance in the bending world, I guess. That was my take on it, and so that's why it's like, okay, so let's just take some non-benders, and boom, now we have airbenders.
In the world of Avatar, you can definitely like understand that with nature just seeming to control so much of the world. But
Hmm.
honestly, I'm a little pessimistic about that situation. For me, it was just like, oh, another quick fix to a plot hole. Duh.
True, true. Also valid. But it was just so cool. I loved it, and the fact that
Yeah.
like you give it to this guy, the one guy, that to me, Zahir getting airbending was like, okay, this was completely and utterly random. Like you had people who were not at all prepared for it. You had people who were like Boomy, who was like, okay, so he's the son of the last airbender. Duh, he should be an airbender, and now he is, and that's good. But then like, oh, a guy who like just so happens to be the head of this anarchist cult of really powerful benders. He's not a bender himself, but he's obviously combat worthy and a master strategist to be in a position of power he was with the Red Lotus. And it's like, oh, he's been studying airbending like just because he's interested in it. And then out of nowhere, boom, the universe is like, yeah, he's an airbender too. It's like it just kind of showcases the random chance of the world just going, okay, I'm just going to impartially balance out the world by adding some airbenders in.
Which I guess it can be verified when you see the lot of everyone else who became airbenders. It's like
Right.
that one like guy who lives at his mom's and some other
Yeah.
people who
He
are
was,
just like, why do
I
I
don't
gotta
care.
do this?
I don't care.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, that was cool to see. Um, I basically lost my train of thought. Um, oh,
What,
so
yeah.
well, no, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say that, yeah, or what Paul said with the whole divergence of people who received airbending. Like, oh, look, let's just have the great granddaughter or the granddaughter of Toph Beifong, the inventor of metal bending. She's supposed to be an earthbender, but let's just give her airbending. It's like, okay, where'd that come from? Like,
Right. Thank you. Okay, that's what I was
yeah.
gonna say. Okay, so um, there were a lot of good traits to this
I
whole
love
series.
Opal.
But something overall in the grand scheme of things that
Yeah,
I found that the series lacked,
yeah.
which I think is really important. So I really think that there was a lack of world building in the Legend of Korra
Um,
series. And you talking about Zaofu and the Beifong family reminded me of that. So it was
that's that's
awesome.
yeah.
It was awesome seeing Zaofu. So like, no, I understand. I understand that the circumstances, that the issues at hand didn't really allow for much travel, but like, boy, by the end of season 2, was I absolutely fed up with Republic City. I
I would
I
I would have to
wanted
agree with you. It's
I
good.
wanted
Yeah.
out. I wanted out of
Hmm.
Republic City. I wanted to see the world. Like, we're 70 years in the future. The Republic City can't be the only new thing. And then we went to Zaofu, and I was like, this is awesome. This is
Right.
so
It was
like
very good. Well timed.
this is Toph's legacy. Like, it
Yeah.
was already really cool to see Su Beifong as the chief of police.
And the police
Um,
metal benders.
yeah, I was like, wow, like our old heroes back in the day, Team Avatar, like this is
Oh
what they
gosh.
left behind, and that's really cool.
Paul,
And
Um,
I'm
what is it?
40 years old. Could
Her
you stop calling me
daughter,
Twinkle Toes?
her daughter, I
what,
would
Paul?
say, is like the best girl ever. Bolin so deserves her.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh,
Yes.
Opal, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, yeah,
Opal and
once Opal
Bolin
was
for the win.
introduced, yeah, I was like, oh great, finally, a girl that Bolin deserves.
I was
Like,
waiting for that
Boom.
since season one. After
yeah,
his first date with Korra, I'm like,
Oh
come on,
gosh.
give him someone good. Give him
Poor
someone.
Bolin.
yeah. So like, it was awesome seeing Zaofu. We briefly returned to that little desert oasis that we saw back in the last Airbender.
That was so cool
Um,
to see that that was like fully back to the way it was, or back to the way Aang probably remembered it 100 years ago, or like I
Hmm.
guess 170 years ago.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it was cool, but like, aside from that, like, we didn't really go anywhere else. We were in Republic City for the grand majority of things. We were in the water tribes a little bit, but like, I don't know. I would have
And
really
then we
liked.
were with the Bayfongs for a really long time too after.
Yeah,
It,
I
Yeah,
would
I
it
have.
would
was like
agree.
those were like the two big pinpoints.
You know,
Yeah, I would have just really liked to see the rest of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
I
we
agree.
didn't touch the Fire Nation at all.
Yes, exactly. I was like, in retrospect, I'm like, wow, wait, did we ever go to the Fire Nation? Like, I don't, like, when were they there? Think
No,
about it.
we didn't
Nope.
see them at
Not
all.
once. That's kind of sad.
And yeah, and everything else was really just glimpses, and then we just
Hmm.
stuck in Republic City, and I was so sick of Republic City. But
It was cool to see
it,
Zuko, seeing Zuko
it
and
was
Iroh.
like
But he
okay, so
didn't do
like
anything.
He
so
rode
yeah,
a dragon. What more do you want from him?
I mean like okay, so it was cool to see Katara in the beginning, and I specifically remember back. So like rewind to season 1, and I'm pretty
She
sure it's
says
like
all
the
my
first.
friends are gone.
Yeah, she says most of my friends are gone already, and so she's like most.
All of the important ones.
Yeah, she's like most of my friends are gone, which means that only Aang, Sokka, and I have to assume Suki as well. But we
Oh.
still have Toph and Zuko, and I'm just like, what are you guys doing here? So I mean, like, it was
Cameo
like
hype.
like okay, it was really cool. Right, so let's go into Toph. Like we see, well, actually that's season 4. Never
Hang
mind.
on, season 3.
Yes.
Like,
We can we can start
just,
moving our way into there.
well, hang on, just to give credit to the Red Lotus, like you have Gazan, who was the lava bender, and Minghua was the armless water bender, and then Pali being the combustion lady, and like I just thought the level of planning into developing these villains was really brilliant. I'm like, wow, okay, so you bring, like, how do you fight the Avatar, the one who can, use all 4 elements? Oh, get 4 powerful benders to represent all of the elements, and then boom shakalaka, there you go. And so,
Combatively, they were probably the most creative.
yeah, just,
And intense.
and then with Zahir made it perfect because he's like, oh look, and now I'm an airbender, and so now we like complete the cycle, and like hardly anybody can stop us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
And,
end of
yeah,
season
go ahead.
Well, the end of season 3, moving into season 4, brought up a lot of thematic things to the entire series. So, like at first when I'm watching this series, I was really having a problem with, and it sounds funny to say, how episodic each season was.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, okay, it's a new season, it's a new villain, and then that's it. Like, there's no like. It didn't feel like a journey. It didn't feel like a journey. It just
Right,
felt like a
right.
new chapter. But then at the end of season 3, I
Yeah.
did some thinking, and so like the season ends. It's Janora's coronation where she gets her tattoos, and Korra's there. She's in a wheelchair because she has mercury poisoning, and she's
Right.
still because like Zahir kicked her ass. And so,
Yeah.
like, she
That
can't
was a
even move.
painful fight sequence. It was-
Yeah, and so she's there in the wheelchair, and she's completely broken. And the season ends with Korra with a single tear running down her face, and that's how the
Which-
season ends.
It sounds a little cruel, but I was kind of like satisfied with that because they were starting to steer away from like perfect endings or like safe stuff, you know?
Yeah,
They were experimenting. Speaking of like not safe stuff, like how Zahir attained the power of flight and like what happened to Pali. I just want to address that for a second. Like that
Right, yes.
was so out of nowhere for me. Like, wow, wait, what? What did Lin just do? Are you serious? Oh gosh.
she
Or was that
bent.
Sue?
She bended.
I think that was Sue.
It was Sue. Yeah,
It was Sue. My bad.
Sue bended
Oh,
armor over Pally. What's her name? Pally.
Pali.
Over Pulley's head, and basically her head
As she was
imploded.
Oh
Right
my
as she was
gosh,
about
yeah.
to like zoop, boom, and then they're like, and we don't even see her body. We just see Zahir like, police, and you're like, oh wow, that just happened. Like
Yeah, my
that really just happened.
my mouth opened when I saw that. I was like, whoa. whoa. But then like you got to give credit to Sahir, even at because like you see that you see that they're in love, that they love each other, and then that happens to her, and he witnesses it, but he's still able to find it within himself to be able to let go and achieve flight. And so Sahir's really impressive. But going back to what I was saying about the thematic stuff, so like that tear ran down her, the theming. So
interesting.
I had a problem with how episodic these seasons were, and then season 3 ends, and it ends like Paul, what you were saying. It really deviated from how we've seen other endings, and people. I was looking online, and people were all like, "Why does it end this way? What does it mean?" And I was thinking,
what does it mean?
I was like, okay, so like, and it got me to really appreciate the show more. So, like, I think, so with these past 3 seasons, Amon, Unalaq, and Zahir, all 3 of them have been different villains with different causes, but they've all been threats to Korra's identity as the Avatar.
Right, exactly.
That was what the issue was. And so I think that tier represents is that I think Korra was thinking what I was thinking when I saw that. I think Korra was thinking, does the world still need the Avatar?
Especially with the
really pushed that near the end too.
Yeah, because everything has been a threat to her identity as the Avatar.
We don't need you. I'm the Dark Avatar. We don't need you. We need equality. We don't need you. We need a new world order.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, thinking about that, like, that's what I've concluded for myself. And so I was able to appreciate the flow and the layout of the individual seasons a little bit more with that in mind.
That's good.
And so now we're in... Okay, you go.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Okay, cool. Just like, what you and Paul have been saying about the ending. I really liked the coronation deal with like Jinora finally getting her tattoo and getting the recognition of what a powerful bender she is. And I just really loved how that symbolized the strength of the air nomads as a nation and as a people, and to me that was a symbol of hope that they're going to recover and they're going to be stronger than ever, and that they're also having more of a worldly influence. Like, rather than just being aloof and like being monks and doing whatever spiritual alignment, they're actually like, hey, the world has real problems and it needs our help, so we're going to help out. And I really liked that shift in the role of airbenders in society. And I just thought that was really cool and awesome. Yeah. And the kids are all great, you know. Iki and Milo, just hilarious.